This is an incoming transmission from the Jersey Shore.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group. Today you'll hear some of the most important financial information and wealth-building techniques available anywhere.
Let's get this party started, huh?
Do you have a question for Scott and the team?
Am I on the air?
609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646.
We'll get that information to them by radio.
Now, Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
It's a presidential election year, and today we're discussing how the election may affect the stock market. Regardless of who wins, the outcome will have an impact on both the overall economy and our individual finances. Scott is here to talk about some trends from the last 100 years and will give us some insight on what we should be concerned about when it comes to the election and our money. Good morning, Scott. And
Good morning.
Exciting times, and you know that it's on people's minds, the election, but also what does it mean for my pocket? What does it mean for the stock market?
It means don't watch TV.
Yeah.
For some of you, because you'll probably want to go to the nearest bar. It's just so convoluted. And then, of course, we don't want to lose friends because, at this time of life, we can't choose Republican or Democrat because we end up in a fight. And I just hate it, the times right now we're facing. Let's just all be lovers. Let's appreciate each other. And let's talk about a different subject. So I appreciate you bringing this up. Alex, you just pulled this out of your tailpipe because people are talking about the presidency. And, I get these calls all the time. Scott, what should we do? Or I had an appointment just a few minutes ago when you're waiting for me out in the room. And they're saying, well, Scott, if the election goes the way we think it's going to go, we're moving to Canada. I've heard that from both damn sides. Stop the nonsense. I mean, yes, it might be in your heart, but you know what? America is the best place in the world. Yes, you might have Roosevelt, or you might have Eisenhower, you might have Hoover. Well, what did the markets do during that time as well? So we're going to talk about that, Alex. I'm glad you brought that up because for those people out there, if you need some help, or maybe some guidance. What I've noticed so often is when it comes to this time of the elections, decisions being right now are very waned between both Republican and Democrat. The biggest thing I hear is the border, and it is a big deal because it will affect all of our money. So the next president, boy, girl, white, black, I don't care, but I hope they make some sound decision because it's going to eat our economy away from the inside out, and it's eating relationships from the inside out. So this is really important. When it comes to that, people, if you have questions, by the way, Alex, you mentioned that I should probably have people give me a call off the air at 609-488-4646. And the reason why is because, where do you invest? How do you invest? Are you investing for income? Or are you investing for growth? And I'm going to go over a quick scenario of the stock market, and then I'm going to go over the presidency. Who is the best president? Well, I don't know. But is it Democrats or Republican that win the race? And I think you're going to find it's such a slim margin that you should be focusing on something else. Is your money in the right hands? Is it protected? Like I was speaking to somebody about hiding their property or repositioning their property into an irrevocable trust. So in the event their lights go dim, they don't have to have their house or their assets eaten away by the nursing home. That's a better discussion, even though it's not a fun discussion, than guessing who the next nuthead is going to be, or the guy in the white or girl in the White House. So yeah. Alex, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and, in these trends, they are just trends. And so that's one thing to caution us of, like, hey, anything can happen. So that's why it's, let's be wise to be prepared for anything and obviously, be willing to pivot if necessarily. But, historically, Scott, most election years have actually seen positive returns in the stock market. Again, we can't say that we're going to predict that that's going to happen, but that's just been what we've seen traditionally.
Absolutely correct. I mean, you go back to my boyfriend in 1929, the stock market was rip-roaring. From 1921 to 1929, the market just sky was the limit. Hoover was in the White House, 43.6%, and that's 1928-29. Then the market took a real crap. And then, of course, Roosevelt jumped in, And he had it into 1932. The market dropped 8%, slowly came back 33%, again came down 9%. Then it's up 19%. The only president of that many terms from 32 to 44. And then it went up 19%. But again, remember, the market dropped considerably from 1929 to 1932. And then the market came back. So the question is, how are you invested? Are you invested for the long run or the short run? And again, we have two different types of presidents. We have the Roosevelt and Truman back to back, followed by Eisenhower, who jumped in, and he had positive years as well. So you know what? It just depends. For those of us, I'm 65, almost 66 in December this year. And you think about, for those of you, when I first started voting, I don't know, Alex, were you around? But I don't think you were a twinkle in Dad's eyes. But Reagan jumped in the helm. And when Reagan jumped in 1980, the market dropped. It screamed back. And then no president touched the market. And so you had Republicans and Democrats up until Bush in 2000 had a negative 9%. Meanwhile, Clinton, he didn't touch the market, and he was up positive for those 4 years. And then Obama comes in right after the other Bush, and Obama had a negative 37% in 2008. You guys remember that? 2009, and it finally slowly came back. So again, it's the trends of the market. If you're thinking about trending their money, Alex, I would highly encourage you to call me, because history does repeat itself more often than not. And not understanding how you invest for the long run or the short run depends on where you allocate the money.
Yes. And if you do have questions, that number is 609-488-4646. Democrat, Republican, other, what is that going to mean? If anything, for my finances, Scott has the answers for you. 609-488-4646. Some other interesting notes here as we look at the trends. So average market returns tend to be higher when a Republican is elected president. But markets typically don't like one party to sweep the presidency and Congress, preferring checks and balances and the stability of divided government. I thought that was an interesting note as well. The market actually likes there to be a divided government as opposed to one side having all control.
And I agree. I totally agree. That's why when I hear people that are pro-Republican, I'm listening to them. And if they're pro-Democrat, everybody has something to say, right? Whether it's valuable or invaluable. I want to get stimulated because now I can make a decision. But again, I better make my decision not by leaning on other people's, but just I'm getting a feeling for what the market's doing. Right now, we have a hot market. We have inflation still going on. I think the interest rates are going to, as you watch interest rates during the year, what's the market doing? You're watching the payrolls. This is important. This is the president. He's making some decisions, or the Fed, they're making some decisions. So based on that, this is where the investor is able to look at those areas and say, you know what, we need to make a change. We need to make a move. Should we go into like the income field? Just a couple of years ago, this interest rates started shooting up, and if you had an income portfolio paying dividends and interest, you probably went down 20-30%. But if you hang on and interest rates start going down, what happens? Those values are going straight up. So it cannot be a knee-jerk reaction. And this is why when people call us at 609-488-4646, when they call us at our number, they say, Scotty, where am I at? What do I do? Where should we go? Where do we invest? Well, before I answer that question, I've got to know the backdrop. When do you need the money? What's the purpose of the money? How much time do we have? So you might have 2 or 3 different portfolios. One is a cash portfolio. One might be a long-term portfolio. I want to live to age 80, but I still want to have a fun. And then maybe I want some dividends and interest to pay my required minimum distribution. Give me a call. If you're listening right now, if you're listening for the first time, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. We're right here in Waretown, New Jersey for so many years. I got in the business in 1982, licensed in 83. And presidential elections, well, they've been going around for a long time. From, in my case, my voting from Reagan to Bush to Clinton to Bush to Obama to Trump, and now to our President Biden. We've gone through a lot. I've been through the cycles. So if you have a question, 488-4646. Maybe just one other opinion. No harm, no foul, and I will not beg or bug you to do business. I can promise you that, but you will love visiting with us. I can tell you that.
Absolutely. As we are in a presidential election year, we're talking about how the election could affect your finances and particularly the stock market. Interesting note here. One good thing is U.S. economy has continued to grow over the last century, regardless of which side has the aisle for the presidential seat. So, not that it doesn't matter, but just saying the economy has been good last 100 years, regardless of who is in there. And the last question here for you, Scott, and really just kind of like a thought is, there's lots of emotions that exist around elections. And we know emotion and finances, sometimes they don't match up. So what advice do you have for folks, when it comes to making a financial decision in a year like this during an election year?
A cool head, patience. Look at the stats. You think in a Republican period of time from 1928 to 2016, Republicans were ahead by 15%, 0.3 on the average return. Democrats were 7.6. Doesn't mean Democrats can't do good. Look at Clinton. And so over election years, over those election years, averaging 11%. So if you can stay in the race and you can continue and you don't look at your portfolio every single day, then you're not going to get as much Pepto-Bismol and of course, maybe Prilosec or other types of medications. You'll be off of that. And if you are watching the TV and the ticker tape and everything else, well, that could affect you. So be very cautiously, but understand the purpose of your money threefold. One could be cash for immediate needs. One could be for dividends and interest to take care of your required minimum distributions. I want to live off the dividends and interest, not burn my principal. And then I want to have growth. I want to grow some money because I got to keep up with inflation. This is how you kind of look at it. We call it the 3D effect. I don't know if you remember that, Alex. The 3D is so important when people look at your portfolio is the dreams, the dollars, and then, of course, passing it on the dynasty. And this is so important to look at the whole thing. That's why we have the lawyers and tax accountants here and, of course, the financial planners at our firm to help you make a smart decision. Give us a call, 609-488-4646. If you've got questions, I've got answers. But I look forward to hearing from anybody, Alex, 609-488-4646.
Yes, give Scott a call. His team at McLean Advisory Group, eager to help. And thank you so much for this information as we're talking about the election, how it's going to affect the stock market coming up. We're going to talk about how boomers are up to bat, but Gen X is on deck. And later, we're going to discuss the pros and cons of working in retirement.
Oh, yeah.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Can we really live the go-go years, or am I going to scrimp and save and stay at home and watch TV, watch Bob Barker? I don't know.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Thousands of baby boomers retire every day. And by 2030, they're all going to be 65 years old. And if baby boomers are up to bat for retirement, that means Generation X is on deck. Financial Insanity. I'm Alex Dingman along with Scott McLean. If you hear something today, raises some questions, 609-488-4646 is the number, 609-488-4646. 4646. And Scott, we're going to talk about Gen X here in just a moment, but 10,000 boomers turning 65 each and every day. And when you have that many people leaving the workforce, it's going to be some potential impact on the economy, I would think, Scott.
Huge impact leaving the economy. And of course, that's why you want to have more kids. So we have people to pay for these Social Security benefits. What is it? For every retiree getting Social Security, we're going to have a problem that yet 1 equals 1. Could we get to that denomination for every person that retires? You got to have one person to pay for that. That's a big problem when it used to be a 20-1 many years ago. So it's going to be a big impact, people leaving. I find this funny. I think it's real funny. I remember when I was a young little rat a couple years ago when my dad was around, and a brilliant man. And he says, son, as you build your companies out, and we've had a couple companies. I've done a lot of real estate. I've bought a lot of real estate properties, built a development in a place called Toms River, New Jersey on Todd Road. You'll see McLean Court, Winston Court, build a bunch of, we just had fun while I was running the business. And he says, son, when you get older, just remember, look at the older person. They've got a lot of wisdom. Don't fire an older person if they've got a lot of wisdom, insight. That was really helpful to me now that I'm the older guy. Luckily, I have my own business. They can't fire me because I'm ugly. But the neatest thing is, I think we have a lot of people that are getting out of business. We have a lot of older people staying in the business. But imagine them leaving, and now you bring in a young stud or studette in the industry, and they don't have the wisdom. They have the drive. They have the energy. But that could, of course, cause a problem called quality control. Cause a problem called excessive work or excessive time. Maybe people are spending time looking at their phones versus looking at the work. You've got these young studs and studettes. They think they know everything, but they have some older person like myself helping educate them, like I do with George, who's been with me for many, many years, a brilliant financial planner and financial advisor. And he's listening to me and taking that in. I hope those young people out now are doing that as the old people are leaving, the baby boomers are leaving. This is going to cause a rumble in the market. Remember, the old folks like myself, we have the majority of money, and the younger folks want it. And the question is, how will it last? Are they getting the financial education they need to make their money last? And I think that's really important, Alex. Are they getting that education? What do they do with their money, and how do they handle it? And I don't know if mom and dad's really talking to them because there's no financial classes in school that are doing it.
Well, sure. And, one thing that everybody wants is to leave a legacy. And one legacy could be financial support for, generations behind you. And one area where Gen Xers could, learn something from boomers is getting started early. And so you have these Gen Xers right now, maybe they're in their mid-50s, still 10 to 15 years from retirement, but that doesn't mean they should just be sitting back and wait. They've been hearing about retirement. They've been thinking, oh, that's my dad, that's my mom, that's the baby boomers. No, that's now you almost. And so now's the time for those folks to really be thinking about it, if not even before now.
Now, Alex, you're a lot younger than I am, but I think what's so funny, nothing has changed. You think about when you're a little kid and Christmas was coming, for those who celebrate Christmas, and you look in the countdown, and here it is, July 2000, and all of a sudden you're about to have Christmas. You're a young little whippersnapper, and July to December 25th is so far away. But us older folks are thinking it's right around the corner.
Yep.
And you think about almost retirement. It's almost the same thing. It's right around the corner. So I'd like to give those of you a quick heads up on math. Let me give you a quick math. If you have grandkids or kids, I call it 10% rule. I call it the 10% rule. I have said this several times on my shows. I know, Alex, you've brought it up many, many times. When you talk about the 10% rule, what does that mean, Scotty? Well, here's what it means, y'all. You ready? Brainwash your grandkids. Brainwash your children to save 10% every paycheck till retirement. I can tell you that's probably the best brainwashing you could ever do. Why? Because it works with compound interest, dollar cost averaging. Compound interest, dollar cost averaging, the rule of 10% in retirement for savings for retirement. So if my paycheck and I'm delivering newspapers, you grandkids out there, please tell your grandparents, please tell your, hey, if you made, do they deliver newspapers, Alex? I don't know if they do that anymore.
Man,
I forgot about that.
I don't think so, my man.
You're a
That's
jerk.
there might
All
be
right,
a
all
few
right.
towns that still do it, but
Well, I'm just thinking if you're making $10 delivering newspapers or mowing the yard for $25, $2.50. Now, getting your kid to save $2.50, I talk about that in my introduction to my book. That's $2.50. I guarantee they start getting brainwashed. It's going to become a habit. And that muscle memory, that habits can stay with them, and they will be very, 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 very secure at retirement. Dollar cost averaging 10%. Now, if you're older and you're heading into retirement, maybe it's a higher number. And so that's why you want to give me a call. Scott, am I on target? Will I have enough for the money to last? 609-488-4646. Scott, I need to ask you a question. Let's get together off the air, no cost, no obligation. I promise you, I will not try to say anything, but I can tell you, let's find out if you're on target or off target. There's nothing worse than, as you mentioned in the beginning of this segment, Alex, that many people are afraid to ask questions. Why? Because they're going to get sold. Why are they asking questions? Because they're embarrassed. Why? Because they feel they should know, but they don't know. This is why do you go to professionals for guidance? And that's why I have in my workshop and all my education, when people meet with us, hide your checkbook, hide your wallet. You can't do business with me. Let's get to know each other. And then we can decide if it's a good fit for you or for my firm, because not knowing that's the biggest pain, which is called change. Am I willing to change my habits? Then once you change your habits, the biggest problem, listen to me, this is you listening, is called procrastination. You keep putting it off, but you didn't call McLean Advisory Group or an advisor. You didn't give a call at 609-488-4646. I got to put a plug, but you didn't call us to get some information, no cost, but you didn't find out the information you need to know to your circumstance, whether you're having a great marriage and it's maybe your child gets sick, maybe you're about to get remarried. What kind of trust should you have? How do I protect my assets for my children, even though I'm getting remarried? How do I take care of my lovely spouse in case their lights go dim? How do I make sure my money's in a good position because the market's so volatile? These are questions people are afraid to ask because they're afraid to get sold. And then you end up putting it off for procrastination and doing nothing. There's nothing worse than sticking your head in the sand, because what happens? Your vitals are exposed like an ostrich looking at their egg. This is a challenge, I find, Alex.
609-488-4646 is the number for Scott and his team. 609-488-4646. 10,000 boomers turning 65 each and every day. But Gen X coming right behind them, getting ready here pretty soon. And one question I have here, Scott, can Gen X count on Social Security for their retirement?
They can really count on it, but the question is, will they be able to count on it? I mean, right now, the way the deficit's going, could they be using money from the Social Security coffers? We already know that the number comes down. Every time I do an educational workshop on Social Security, it comes down. So now the question is, could there be a 20% drop by 2033? That's right around the corner, 10 years from now, as we do our show today in 2023. So if you're listening this in 2024, okay, it's 9 years, but the question is going to be, can I take a haircut? Or am I saving enough outside of Social Security? Alex, is the real question, because if you want to live on Social Security, and many people can, but maybe they're living with their children. Maybe they're living with their sugar daddy or sugar mama. I don't know. But
That's
the
my
question
plan.
is, can you live on it? I mean, I don't know, but I want to make sure that I'm buttoned up nice and safe. I don't want to be a drain on my children.
Of course.
But maybe it's not a drain. Maybe I'm just living at their house, which is, I've had several conversations. Should I buy a house, Scott, that's a duplex? Maybe. I don't know. But the question is, how long will your money last if the market drops 30%? If the stock market drops 30% like it did in 2008, when it was a 56% drop in 1 year. How are you going to sleep at night? This is why people are calling us often, Alex.
Yeah, I think that's wise, and
It's real.
And obviously, it's smart to get started early. And we're talking about Gen Xers, but Scott, final question here. This segment, maybe when you're even in your 40s, you still have some time, but what should you be thinking about at that point? And is that too early to get with a financial advisor like yourself?
I think people should get a financial advisor when they're a lot younger. And then if they're 40s, yes, I think it's not even an issue. I don't shop somebody out. I don't care. 2 or 3 appointments. Find different people. Find someone that you can mesh with. Find someone who's not going to look at you as a dollar sign, but they're looking at as they want to help you sign. This is how you shop. And I've got a whole white paper on that, Alex. People can get their hands on it. How do you look for a financial advisor? How do you mesh, and what questions should you ask? Really, really important, because putting it off, it just causes a bigger problem.
609-488-4646 is the number. 609-488-4646. Just add a .com for the website. And like Scott mentioned earlier, you can go to the site there and send in your own questions, which is just so important, Scott, because that's what we're going to talk about on the show. We wouldn't be talking about stuff if people weren't worried about it. They didn't have concerns. They didn't have questions. And so getting those to us is just so important, because we want to try to answer.
I'd love to help the people. Put your questions down. Go to our website. Give us a shout out. I think that's critical.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, Gen Xers, not quite retiring in droves just yet, but definitely need to start thinking about it, getting their head into the game. We're going to talk about more of that coming up. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
It's nice when you get everything on your list in one place, isn't it? Scott McLean from McLean Advisory Group agrees. That's why he offers comprehensive retirement planning all under one roof. You shouldn't have to go one place for tax planning, another for estate planning, and another for retirement income planning. That's why McLean Advisory Group was started. Scott wanted to build a company that could help families with all aspects of their retirement planning. McLean Advisory Group is more than just convenient. They're knowledgeable and experienced. And for answers for your questions, you can set up a meeting with Scott and his team to talk about your retirement. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. Use the same number to reach the team online. 609-488-4646.com. Firm offers insurance services but does not provide tax or legal advice. Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Put your positive hat on. Let's have a call to come to Jesus meet. Let's have a real live discussion. Let's get somewhere and put a game plan together.
We made it back. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Gen Xers not retiring in droves just yet, but they are worried about how to get ready for retirement. You have these folks in their 40s, their 50s, and so, still around 10, 15 years maybe from retirement, Scott. We're talking about these folks today and how they can get prepared. If you have questions, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. And so, Scott, for those folks that maybe still have another 10 years until they retire, what should they be really prioritizing in terms of their savings at this point?
Wants versus needs. Wants versus needs. A lot of time you want to get that fancy car, but then you're thinking, is my savings, do I have enough for retirement? You're not going to think about that when you're driving that nice new, smelling car, brand new leather seats, or that boat. And you think about, how much am I saving? How much am I putting away? This is wants versus needs. We all know this. We've all heard it. This is nothing new. You don't have to go get the degrees I have to get that, but it's very, very basics. And you think about, the very basic is number one. If you're saving enough money in savings, emergency fund, as well as saving enough money for retirement, do you know that number? Do you know what you should focus on? And don't use these pie in the sky, stupid numbers. Well, if you're getting a 12% rate of return, then you have to always save this. Don't use, be very critical on the rate of return. When a financial guy or a gal says, we're going to get you a nice rate of return of 12 to 15%. This happened to me in the 80s when the market was screaming, and the 90s. And I remember people coming in, Scott, when the market's screaming, if you can't get me 12 to 15%, I can do it myself. And they were right in that small window of opportunity.
Yeah.
And time. The question is, let's not use fake numbers, because we don't have a fake retirement when you get to the retirement age you want to get to. Are you using realistic numbers? I'm not going to tell you what it is out there, guys, but I can tell you, use realistic numbers. If you call me at our studios, I'll talk to you about it. But the second thing is, of course, want versus needs. This is the biggest problem when you say, I want to go on that fancy trip. I can tell you, I've had a clients came in, Scott, we've got over $200,000 saved, and we have $1,500 of Social Security from my wife. My Social Security is $2,000 a month, and we only need $5,000 to live on. Okay, well, that means you need $1,500. How do you plan on making that up? So what does $1,500 mean to you? What does your number mean to you? And I talk about this, and I use the rule of 4 to keep real simple. And I'm going to give it real easy to you guys. If you take the rule of 4 and I need $1,500 to get me my $5,000 like the client, well, $1,500 times 12 is $18,000. So I need to make $18,000 a year for the rest of my life. Well, if I use the rule of 4, I simply divide it by the rule of 4. That means I need $450,000 in my nest egg by age, let's say 65, all right, when I turn on my Social Security, or for those of you, 67, whatever that number is. But now we have to add one more factor in called, well, that's inflation. So let's throw that number in, and that's the number we focus on. Now we can buy that fancy new car with the wonderful smelling seats and leather, or we can buy that nice boat, or maybe we can put the pool in the backyard. But the mindset needs to be, but we need, honey, to put away $341 a month to get to our number. That's what Scotty said, or that's what our financial advisor said. These are numbers, but let's make them more fun, because finance is not fun. And most of you listening to me, you probably don't like numbers. Most people don't like numbers, except you win the lottery. Then you get the right numbers you like. That's probably the only time you like numbers. But cultivate the mindset of saving. Understand, if it's $325 a month you need to save, honey, can we buy that boat? Yes, we are on target. How great would that feel, knowing you're on target and you're going to buy that boat, or that pool that your kids are screaming for, or maybe the college fund you need to save for? Alex, make finances fun, even though they're not fun all the times. Pursue the passions you want in retirement. Cultivate a social connection. What are we going to do when we retire? What does it look like? And then I think of those older people that are in retirement right now, the volunteer give back. There's an organization I'm strongly love. It's called Star Poverty right here in Barnegat, New Jersey, where they're only focused to how do I get people food, and they need volunteers. Listen to me right now. If you can offer time to Star Poverty right here in Barnegat, New Jersey, please call me right now so I can get you the information on Starve. STARV, Poverty. They do a wonderful job. This nonprofit, I know the people. I know the money is very fiscally sound. 609-488-4646. I am a big supporter of theirs. I can tell you the work they do for people that are not as privileged as you listening to me. They want to help. If you want to volunteer, do a give back. 609-488-4646. And then you can think about your travel. Where do you want to explore? Not knowing that you've touched your finances are in order, your social calendar is in order, your give back is in order, you're volunteering, helping people. There's nothing worse than staying in your house and doing nothing versus getting out and helping others. This is my biggest ploy when I see people pursuing retirement. Well, here's the more other areas other than money. What are the other areas psychologically, emotionally you need to pay attention to? And I think that's really important when it comes to financial planning, Alex, not just numbers.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I know a lot of people listening right now as we're talking about Gen Xers and baby boomers. And one thing that they share is that they may be a part of that sandwich generation where they're right in between. Maybe they're taking care of parents and they're taking kids at the same time. And Scott, this can have a huge impact on your finances, can have a huge impact on planning for your own well-being in the future. And how does maybe someone address this?
Sandwich generation. I heard that. It was kind of funny. And you think about taking care of your mom and dad, like my meeting just a while ago, helping your mom and dad. Or maybe you meet a Generation Xer and they're 50 years old, got a couple kids, maybe their kids are 20, 23. Then you got the grandmom and grandpa, 70s and 80s. How does that look? And then all of a sudden you find out you have to take care of mom and dad, and you're juggling all sorts of emotional things, taking care of your mom and dad, taking care of your young kids, and all of a sudden the grandbabies start popping out, or your children are having struggles. I don't know if this is answering your question when you think about it, Alex, but the Generation Xers versus the boomers, this sandwich generation, the financial responsibilities may not seem much to you now, but when it sneaks up on you and your dad has a heart attack, your mom gets MS, your children get a divorce and they don't have any money, it sneaks up on everybody. It affects more than just one person. This is an emotional and financial question, Alex. And this is a big thing that people aren't paying attention, let alone the medication, the expense they're paying for healthcare.
Yeah.
And so this is really important, Alex.
Well, and I think the big thing is, Scott, is that you can plan, but life is going to happen.
Yes, for sure.
It's going to happen, and you've seen it happen, and people know this already in their own lives. They know that they've planned, and then, well, I didn't know I'd get married at 20 and divorced at 30, or I didn't know that, like you said, my parent was going to get sick or whatever. And so, it is important to plan, and then you also have to plan for the unexpected, which I know that sounds impossible, but there are things you can put in place to do that, right, Scott? In the last couple of minutes we have.
This is funny. Just a lovely client. They have a significant amount of money. Husband and wife, great. They've been with us many, many years as financial clients. We've guided them through the legal and taxes. Let me give you a situation. This may be you out there. Listen, they're close. They have a beautiful son, a beautiful daughter. The daughter went through a terrible divorce. She has 2 children, and now she's getting remarried, and she will be inheriting significant money when mom and dad pass away. I know that. I know the whole family. Here's the question. When I asked the father today, if your daughter dies before you do, and then the money goes to the estate, does the money go to the grandchildren? He goes, well, Scott, you did my estate. I said, I know. But what does her will say? What if she dies after you? She inherits the money, then she dies. Does her new husband get the money, and the money goes to her children and to his children? Does she have that in her will? Has the financial advisor paid attention to the will of your children, the will, power of attorney, living will? You see, when you pass money on, we can help our clients grow money, Alex. The question is, what happens if they pass on? Should we have that? I call it the come to Jesus meeting, come down to earth and find out, by the way, kids, I'm not trying to weasel my life into you becoming your financial advisor, but mom and dad want to make sure that you're buttoned up nice and tight, that in the event mom and dad dies, that your money goes to you and your portion of the money goes to the blood, not to the new husband or the new husband's children if they have children before they get married. I see this time and time again. People are not paying attention to the legal aspects, let alone where does the money go and do they have enough money, Alex? This is another snag in the three blind mice scenario. 609-488-4646. By the way, guys, that's my website, 609-488-4646. That's the phone number. And it's also 609-488-4646.com. You can't forget it. Why? Because we're here for you to help you answer your questions and concerns. No cost, no time is the best time right now.
Financial Insanity with Scott McLean continues in just a moment.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
I call it the chicken and the egg. The chicken is the investment. The egg is the dividend. And so when the chicken pops out the eggs, if you don't need the money, let's reinvest the eggs and buy more chickens.
Man, that's just an excellent analogy, Scott.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group.
Lots to think about when you're heading into retirement. One of those things is whether or not you should continue working. This is the retirement yay or nay segment. So, a survey by Express Employment Professionals, a staffing agency, indicating 79% of workers between 57 and 75, 79%, nearly 8 out of 10, say they would rather be semi-retired rather than fully retired. Scott, does that make sense? And what are some possible pros and cons to this kind of approach?
What a crazy statement. I remember I laughing because I'm thinking about mom and dad. And I remember when daddy retired and he calls me up. I'm in New Jersey. He's in Florida in Jacksonville. And he says, son, I got to get a job. I said, but daddy, you're retired. Son, I want you to understand I love your mother. I just can't be around here all day.
Hey, you got to be honest in relationships,
And I started laughing. I didn't understand. I was a lot younger than I am now. And, good thing mom and dad are in heaven hanging out waiting for me.
Okay.
Got good news. They can wait. But that stays in my mind when you made that statement, because first of all, I don't know how people can turn the engines off. Me, I'm looking at expanding my firm, but other people are enjoying their retirement. God bless everyone. The question is, when you retire, the hard challenge is, should you keep working? Well, find something. If you love your job, then frankly, you're not working. That's me. I don't have to work. We're blessed enough. I love our clients. I love people. I will continue to work until God calls me home, as far as it looks right now. Luckily, he hasn't called me. The second thing is, other people maybe want to try a different vocation. Maybe they go from being a nurse, a doctor. Maybe they're a toll collector. Maybe they're a sanitation engineer. Well, that's okay, but they want to do something else and they want to find something. So maybe they want to work. So I can't answer that question for anybody here, but dadgummit, my best friend in Jacksonville, Florida, Dale, always makes fun of me because I want to work 100 miles an hour. That guy could sit in his yard, sit around the campfire and have a couple adult beverages and enjoy life. Good old Southern boy. We grew up since age 6. And he always makes fun of me and teasingly because I'm 100 miles an hour. Difference of personalities. Dale likes to rake his yard. I like talking to clients. I can afford someone to rake my yard, but I love talking. So what is your vocation? Don't just leave to leave. There's got to be a compelling reason. Maybe you want to travel with your beautiful spouse or husband, wife, and maybe you want to take a trip. Maybe you want to take care of dogs and or cats, and maybe you want to get in that. Maybe you want to go out and maybe start a lawn service part-time because you love taking care. I don't know what it is, but I can tell you, you better have some type of game plan because you could be watching Prices Right, and that crap gets older. I can tell you for sure. So let's say you're 65 years old. You want to go from company A, and you have a 401k, and you want to go to company B, and it has a 403b. Well, and you love your work. One mistake I found is you roll the money over to an IRA. Now, why would that be a mistake? Well, maybe you plan on working a long time. Maybe you should roll it over to the new company if they accept it, so you don't have to take the required minimum distributions at 72. Now, frankly, if you don't think you're going to be working until 72, then you roll it over to an IRA, and you've got a lot of universal products that you could buy or get involved in to protect your money. In these times right now, whether they're good times or bad times, you need to invest that money. So whether you should, the question number one is, if you're going from job A to job B, should you roll over the money to a plan? Next thing is what choices they give you. This is really important. And in retirement, you know what? If you love what you do, find something else. Speak to your spouse or a significant other. If you're by yourself, maybe you want to go mountain climbing or water skiing like my sport, or just hang gliding like I did. I can tell you there's a lot of fun things, but you got to figure out what you're going to do, and what kind of fun is it going to be?
Maybe you need a first opinion. Maybe you need a second opinion about whether you should keep working, how much in retirement. Either way, Scott can be reached at 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646 at a.com for the website. So earlier, we'll just call it 80% of workers between 57 and 75 said they'd rather be semi-retired rather than fully retired. So, Scott, I mean, is this just the end of retirement as we know it?
No. And I think the biggest thing is, and what we spoke about, Alex, is, I think forgot to bring up the health coverage. The insurance is before you leave work. You may just want to stay there and get the health coverage because maybe you're 63 years old.
Sure.
And Medicare is not kicking in until 65. And the health insurance could be as expensive as ever. So I forgot to bring that up as a downside of retiring. Maybe you get a part-time job that offers health benefits. This could be beneficial. And what if you have a wonderful spouse who has no health coverage? Or like my conversation, we were putting a trust together for a client, and they have a special needs son. He's on the insurance. Well, that's a whole nother world on the area of part-time or full-time, whatever. Now, other areas of part-time work, Alex, I'm not sure, but you think about taking Social Security too early. Should you take it or not too early? Should you keep working? And so I don't want to leave that out. I think I might have left it out a little bit before. I hate to. There's so many choices that could drive your money in the ground, and especially if the stock market is dropping, it could really cannibalize your assets and make you have to work.
Well, and Scott, people generally are healthier, generally living longer, and therefore could possibly have a longer retirement. Where in the past, 10, 20 years, maybe it's 20, 30 years. And so you have to account for that, Scott. And that's just a longer amount of time, obviously, to have a steady paycheck or something there to fill that gap. And so that's what makes this so interesting. You don't want to just retire, have nothing to do for a lot of reasons. Financial is definitely one of them, but also, like you hinted to earlier, a lot of it's just mental as well, and your physical health, and giving yourself some purpose and keeping that brain sharp.
That's so important. The purpose. Maybe the purpose is those of you right now that are in or near retirement. Maybe you're in retirement. You need to find a new hobby. You need to try a new sport or maybe a new venture. maybe you need to try go out, you and your significant other or spouse, or meet new friends, be around people. Don't just cavitate yourself, lock yourself into your room. Just get out and enjoy what we've been so blessed with, this beautiful country. I mean, we could talk about the Democrats and Republicans and get all stuck in the muck and not enjoy life. This is disastrously depression. Leave the politics aside and just be a friend. Just love on people. We're allowed to have our own opinions. And when people aren't allowed to have their own opinions, get away from those people. If they don't respect you, then you don't need to be around each other. We all need respect. And especially times like this, coming out of the COVID area, coming out of the, being isolated. Oh my gosh, it is so many devastating things that are come down the line because of this. Get out and meet people, understand what you're doing. But again, as you said, be very careful with your money, because we're living a lot longer. And by taking out too much money in the go-go years, are you going to have enough money in the slow-go years? Or are you going to run out of money? And we talked about that in several of our shows, Alex, called reverse dollar cost averaging, where you have to pull a lot more money out. You have to sell a lot more shares just to get the same income. So positioning your money to last a longer time so you have an income that will last the rest of your life. That's why people call us at our studios. Scott, how can I have that income that will last the rest of my life so I can put my head on my pillow and say, I can sleep well at night? 609-488-4646. I'll be able to talk to you if you'd like and maybe help you with some of those areas of concern. I'd love to talk to you. 609-488-4646. Before you make the arduous decision, where do you invest? Should you retire, not retire? And what are your options? There's a lot to discuss, Alex. Guys, I was thinking about this gentleman who went back to work to celebrate his 100th birthday. This one guy in Jersey, however, decided to do exactly the opposite. His name is Bill Hansen, and he celebrated his 100th birthday by returning back to his work, which he diligently for 32 years loved. And so Fred Hutchinson, the CEO of Hutchinson Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, well, he signed an agreement to go back to the work for one day. And he welcomed with a big birthday cake and a full day of assignments. He loved it. And he took off about 15 minutes after we signed the agreement. He said the agreement, he got to work, and the Hutchinson said he had to spend a lot of time where he could be at the company before he retired at age 97. He didn't have much to say for retirement life. He said, quote, I hate being retired. I never had a job where I didn't want to go to work in the morning. Hansen said, and he attributes much of his happiness in life to his love of his work, his wife, and his family. You see, for retirement, it could be forever. But what is your forever? Is it working? Is it enjoying life? It's about what you have and the quality of your life. Quality of your life, psychologically, we spoke about, emotionally, and financially. Can you do it? Make that decision. I'd love to talk to you. 609-488-4646. This is important.
This radio program may contain information which has gone regulatory or other significant changes since its original recording. The information and views expressed on today's show is educational in nature and is not intended to be a recommendation for any specific investment, product, strategy, plan, tax, or legal advice. Information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities.
This radio show is a paid placement.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. It's nice when you get everything on your list in one place, isn't it? Scott McLean from McLean Advisory Group agrees. That's why he offers comprehensive retirement planning all under one roof. You shouldn't have to go one place for tax planning, another for estate planning, and another for retirement income planning. That's why McLean Advisory Group was started. Scott wanted to build a company that could help families with all aspects of their retirement planning. McLean Advisory Group is more than just convenient. They're knowledgeable and experienced. And for answers for your questions, you can set up a meeting with Scott and his team to talk about your retirement. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. Use the same number to reach the team online. 609-488-4646.com. Firm offers insurance services but does not provide tax or legal advice.